Most of the books have the smell of an earlier time leaking out between the pages, a special odor of knowledge and emotions that for ages have been calmly resting between the covers. Breathing it in, I glance through a few pages before returning it to its shelf. Haruki Murakami, Kafka, On the Shore. Ladies and gents, this is Book Academy Podcast, presenting to you another book talk of one of the world's best fantasy book ever written that had garnered numerous literary awards. Kafka on the Shore is powered by two remarkable characters. A teenage boy, Kafka Tamura, who runs away from home either to escape a gruesome Oedipal prophecy or to search for his long-missing mother and sister, and an aging simpleton called Nakata, who never recovered from a wartime affliction and now is drawn toward Kafka for reasons that, like the most basic activities of his daily life, he cannot fathom. As their paths converge and the reasons for that convergence become clear, Haruki Murakami enfolds readers in a world where cats talk, fish fall from the sky, and spirits slip out of their bodies to make love or commit murder. Kafka on the Shore displays one of the world's great storytellers at the peak of his powers. This was an unexpected choice of a book for me. At first, I was thinking I have never read an original Japanese novel. Maybe there's some fake, but what I mean is that originally a Japanese written novel. So when I heard acclaims from this book, and of course with acclaims of the author, I gave Kafka Shore a try. Even when I do not know the story, not even sure if it is fantasy, gothic, or political, I just added it into my list and read it right after I finished the book that I was reading. The title reminded me of the song Versace on the Floor by Bruno Mars. I don't know why, but they rhyme so well. I could not stop associating the two. So much for unearthing the reason why I had picked this book for this podcast. Let's go to some details. I will try to not give much of the story just in case you haven't read it. But if you really want to be surprised, just like me, then press the pause button and read the book first. Come back later to this podcast and check if we had the same feelings about the book. Okay, so the start of the story was not slow. There is a part of me that just really wants to turn the page and forget that I have to eat, or drink. But since the chapters are well divided, every chapter I could have a break and not be lost in the story. Also, there are lots of short stories in the novel that makes up the entire story. So for the readers that have short attention span, maybe you will enjoy this one. Each story is relevant, and it is not some random insertion of the writer just to have a colorful plot or an additional word count. You need to get the gist of those short stories for you to understand the whole. Mind you, I did not expect that this was some sort of a fantasy story. I thought to myself, well, everything's normal here. Maybe there are some unresolved stuff, but I think there is no out of this world event when suddenly a cat talked, and my expectations were very wrong. But cat talking is like not a big deal, right? Because we talk to our cats, and sometimes they kind of understand. So I was not really disappointed. I love cats, and cats in the story made it more colorful. But after the cat, things got crazy, and then I was taken into a world of fantasy where time is no longer a factor. Yes, I was in denial that there was some magical powers in the story. I thought, oh, the characters are just going through some mental issues here. I know schizophrenia has auditory and visual hallucinations, so maybe this is what it's all about. Maybe a psychological or medical intervention is on the way that will resolve the story. Oh, yeah, I'm giving already too much of the story, so let's pull back. Let's go to the setting. The setting is in Japan. It was vivid. I mean, every setting in the story feels realistic. There are no words on how to describe the kind of descriptive writing this Murakami does. I've never been to Japan, but it felt like a place I had visited in my head, and I love it. The forest, library, cabins, these are my favorite places in stories. And I was taken inside of that whimsical capsule for one reading experience. Murakami, as an author, is pure talent. I don't know if this has something to do with his being Japanese or Asian, but the style is so fluid and raw. I felt like reading more of his books, but gosh, I don't have the time to finish books for my licensure examination. Yes, when examinations were postponed, I got to read this instead. I pray I pass my exams, all my exams, so that I could get to read more. But no worries, as my father would say, some things would still be there, but other stuff comes only once in a while. Murakami books are not going to left this world, but my examinations have to be taken right away the earliest time possible, because that, my friend, is reality. When I first encountered Haruki Murakami, it was in the streets of Paris. Just kidding. What I mean is when I first read his name, Haruki Murakami. It was from the book Ikigai. I think he was mentioned on the section of that self-help book about flow. How some people unleash their creativity using flow. They said that when Murakami writes, he kind of left this world and lived in his written world. With flow taking all over him, he is able to write masterpiece stories. Well, as if the review of, Barack Obama, of one of his short stories compilation, is not enough to prove to people how fascinating he is. You can feel it in the book that as if a person had written this with all his power and soul. I'm not even close to that because when I write, I'm easily distracted. I don't have that flow. It took me 8 years with so many things that happened in between to finish a short novel, and I'm proud already to reach that 39,000 word count. This book, is voluminous, 40-ish chapters, and magical. If I can make a story just even close to this, I think my life's purpose has been fulfilled. I don't know. I don't even know my life's purpose. I don't think I have one. By the way, I had learned many information from this book, not only about the Japanese things, like how they are fond of eating eel. I don't eat eel, but information about Beethoven, classical music, wars, philosophies. It was not an empty book. It's intellectual. Yes, I can call it that, intellectual. There's a nice ring to it. Maybe we should call our smart friends not witty, but intellectual. However, for those kids out there, this book has some scenes not suitable for the young. It's really not that much. I think it has one or two. It was one way of giving some action to the story, a way of showing that the characters are biological in nature. A romantic action to keep other readers happy. But it was relevant to the story. There are many books out there that include scenes like this just to keep it steamy, and when in fact it does not add relevance to the story. This one did that for the purpose of keeping it real. I could go on rambling about how fantastic this work of fiction is, but I don't want to sound redundant. I am a slow reader, so it took me about 2 weeks to finish this story because real life has to happen in between, but it was all worth it up until the end. There are values in the story that would left you to think about, but sometimes not thinking about them is also okay. I mean, this is a work of fiction. Leave it in your imaginative mind, not in your rational mind. My one takeaway from this book is this, that sometimes we have to go on beyond our comfort zones and explore things. It's the way to fulfill our destiny and to find out if we are cut out for it. If you haven't read Kafka on the Shore by Haruki Murakami, write it down in your to be read list. And if you had read it already, share with us your thoughts by visiting our Facebook page and leaving a comment on the post or on Ko-fi.com. We are also on Twitter at Sophie Metropolis. I like book conversations, obviously, so feel free to send your thoughts. Thank you for listening.